Hello and welcome guys to my fourth vlog, or fifth depending on how you want to look at it, but this is the fifth week now of my game development for Bit Battle, and this time we're going to be looking at the character and the level design which I've done. They're only rough, just to let you know, they're only rough, they may not be finished, but they're coming along. It's just some ideas of kind of characters and levels that I wanted to design, but we'll go through them today in this video, and we'll go through my reasoning behind them perhaps, and what different attacks they might have and different traits and strategies and things like that, but we'll go through it as we go along. So designs, what a great slide, many words. The designs I've done so far, just as I said before, the characters and level designs, that's kind of pretty much self-explanatory. So, moving on to the characters, I'm going to planning to have 15 characters. It may be a bit too much, I may cut some, I may not, depending on how it goes and how easy it is to implement them all. But I'm hoping to have 15 different characters in the game that the user can play as. Maybe have some at the start, maybe can only have access to 9, say, and then there's another 6 which become unlockable. But anyway, we'll go through them anyway. I'm going to have to read them, so I've got to stop looking at the camera. Yeah, so it's I've got Lord Hellfire. Sorry about the names, they might be a bit kind of cringe-worthy, maybe some are a bit in-house jokes kind of things, but and some references to some things, you may get them or you may not. But so we've got Lord Hellfire, Green Giant, Wet Willy, it's not what you think it is, Aloy there, General Direction Farts, See Me, Holy Sheet, you see what I did there, Count Darkula, Fuzz Rohan, there's another one, Chill Get Out, you might get that, Mudblock Turtanus, just came up with that one, Sparky Roebuck, Mojo Dojo, 12th Sense, because why not, and Rock'em Socks. So they're quite funny names. I just came up with them and thought it'd be a bit of a laugh. When you're developing a game on your own, then you've got a lot more free roaming. You can kind of make all decisions, whether they be good or bad, depending on what they are. So that's the thing. You've got no one kind of telling you, or no one to share an opinion with or discuss about. That's the only downside to doing things like that. If I can not twist my words, it's a downside to doing something like this, is because there's no second opinion. You can't kind of refer it to someone else and kind of ask. You can ask your friends and stuff perhaps, but you don't get kind of like an official second opinion. Kind of go, oh yeah, would this be a good idea? And then you can kind of weigh out the pros and cons. You can do that by yourself, but it's handy to have another couple of one or two brains there as well. But yeah, so we're going to go through all of these characters, their elements, things like that, and just some very early designs that I've put along with the slides here. So moving on to the first one, which is Lord Hellfire. Sorry about the aliasing, by the way. I've had to resize them by just doing it in this, because I'm using OpenOffice in their presentation software or whatever. But so yeah, they've been aliased a bit, and they've got a bit of some around the edges. You can probably see it's kind of been highlighted by accident. It's a bit blurry, but sorry about that. I didn't have time to resize them and things. But we'll go through it anyway. So the element is fire, obviously, because it's Lord Hellfire. So they're all going to have different elements, and just kind of give them a bit of differentiation as opposed to all having the same elements but different designs. They kind of have different things about them. For the A attacks, because I'm going to have A standard attacks and special attacks, I don't know whether I'll actually name these A attacks because they're just standard attacks. So like Fire Punch, there's no special attack. It would just be a punching in the left and right in the x-axis either way, so left or right. And A would obviously produce a punch. Up and A would produce an uppercut. So it's nothing special, as I said before. And down and A would do some sort of slide attack. Something a bit different. But yeah, moving on to the actual special attacks. Excuse me, sorry. I have to take a quick drink and I haven't drunk enough water this morning, sorry. I should probably cut that out, but I'm not going to anyway. Because I'm too lazy. The left and right and B attack will do a fireball, so just got some sort of projectile that may fade out eventually. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that. But just some sort of basic kind of pixely fireball kind of thing. It's pretty cool. His up and B attack will be fire up, so hopefully just some sort of temporary power up for kind of 5 seconds or so, just kind of increases attack damage output, perhaps something like that. Obviously, you don't want to up it too much because it starts becoming, then you get balance issues. So, well, probably for something like maybe 5 seconds, kind of just that you can kind of use on the fly and just suddenly do a bit more damage to kind of have that finishing blow or something like that. And down and B, Flame Inferno, just something like massive fire damage kind of everywhere. Something pretty cool. Every kind of character's going to have some massive attack or something. Maybe you're limited to how many times you can do it, or maybe it's got some charge up time that if you get attacked during that time, then the attack fails. But I'll be looking at those mechanics probably in the future, just before I start actually, or probably during implementation. I'll probably be thinking about these different mechanics. So they may change as they go. But yeah, there's just a design there as well along with it while I discuss it. But yeah, we'll move on to the next one, which is Green Giants. As you can see, he has no eyes, no visible hands really. Well, you can see the hands there, but no eyes. The design hasn't really been finished for a lot of these. So, but they're just some ideas. So he's going to be with nature element. As I said before, the left and right attacks and A, we'll probably skip those, but they're just the standard attacks. I've just given them names because actually, before I move on, I may have I'm not entirely sure whether for the special attacks I might actually, if you know kind of the what kind of series, like the Tales series, things like, when they do a special attack, they actually announce it, or even in some of the Super Smash Bros games like NES, or kind of go PK Fire and things like that when he does PK Thunder and kind of. So I might have something along those lines. We'll see whether I can produce some kind of voices and do some post production on those voices, kind of just to change post production. No, just kind of post things in post on the audio to kind of change them up a bit. Because obviously you don't want my voice coming through there. You want to make it sound a bit different because my voice is horrible. So I might have something like that. It might be a bit cool, but the problem with that is that you kind of, if people start spamming attacks, and it kind of gets a bit bad. If you look at kind of if it's like fire, blah, 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 and then it's kind of, and then everyone else, if there's like 4 players and everyone else is using it, kind of, I'm not entirely sure. We'll see how that goes, but we might do it. It might be a bit fun, something a bit different. No, I'd say it's different. It's been used before, but something different in this scenario. But yeah. Anyway, moving back on topic. So the left and right B attack, B special attack will be like grass whip, so kind of like kind of close to medium range, kind of obviously standard whip attack, kind of like just pull out a whip and just kind of hit them for moderate damage. Up and B attack, bark skin. As you can see, it's kind of trending that a lot of them have like one standard attack in the x-axis for special attacks, one kind of power up, or one either power up attack, or one that kind of reduces the stats and reduces reduces their defense or does damage over time, something like that, and one just kind of like big attack. So just to keep it a bit more, keep it a bit more balanced. I should stop talking so quickly. So up and B kind of does like a bark skin attack, so kind of like maybe a bit of defense up for 5 seconds, some kind of standard time, 5-6 seconds, something like that. And down and B attack will be Nature's Grasp, so kind of maybe some sort of attack where just kind of like vines come up from the ground or something like that. Just something a bit interesting. Some pixelated vines come up and try and damage the players all around within a certain radius, perhaps. Something like that. Should put... anyway, yeah. So moving on to the next one. It's not where you think it is, and it's not a reference to the thing we put a wet finger in your ear. It's the name Willy. So Wet Willy. It's water element. As before, the A attacks will skip those. But going on to special attacks, so kind of the left and in the x-axis for B attack will be what sort of, I'll put that, Aqua Jet. So kind of like some sort of like moderate range spray that does some damage. I know it's water that can't do damage, but it's in it's fantasy world. Water can do damage. It does in a lot of games, so you can just soak them with water and somehow knock them out or kill them. But yeah, so some sort of moderate to long range kind of attack there that does medium damage. Up and B attack would be overflow, so I don't know, maybe I was thinking about this one possibly having, so kind of like soak the area around him, like on the floor, which kind of maybe ups his damage and speed just for a little bit, perhaps something like that, but it takes a lot of time to actually charge to kind of gain enough water so you can do the attack. And down and B attack, I probably need to actually change the name of this because it sounds really weird to strike water, so possibly just strike the ground and kind of like a jet comes up in like a either a random place within, like, I don't know, within 5 yards, so to speak, in inverted commas, but they're just kind of random strikes water and kind of like hit the ground, and kind of the water comes in, when they dig for oil, and then you strike oil, so something like that. But yeah, let's move swiftly on to the next one. Alloy there. Ahoy! Yeah, you can probably see where it's come from, like ahoy there, alloy there, you see what I did? Yeah, so it's left and right B attack, kind of like a standard sword strike, where it just kind of strikes the player from close distance. Or possibly, just to change it up a bit, it strikes close distance and kind of does, and the kind of the ripple, like the shockwave, kind of goes forward a bit as well, just to make it a bit different from the standard attacks. Up and B attack, kind of like a steel strikes, so which I've called it, some sort of like high speed attack that kind of either in the y-axis going up or kind of whichever direction they're facing, kind of just some sort of fast jabs with the sword. And steel defense down and B, so obviously just to raise the defense a bit, but may reduce kind of movement speed because obviously you're defending, so maybe they have some downsides to it as well, so just make it a bit more balanced, so to speak. But moving to the next one, oops, sorry, I pressed 0 there. General direction parts, if you get the reference, well done. 5 internets for you. So of wind element, oh, I didn't say this, what was the element before? Yeah, steel element, so, or metal, I'll change the name perhaps, but yeah, so as you can guess, it's wind element due to the name. And so the left and right B attack will be blowback, maybe farting in his general direction, we'll see, but there's something kind of force, like a whirlwind, well, I've said whirlwind there, but there's something to blow back the player, so kind of it might be used to knock them off the stage. It could be used, it'll do a like small amount of damage as well, kind of like just move them out of the way, move them into something, away from, like, if they're trying to get one of the power-ups, which we'll talk about later on the levels, but just something that they can use to their advantage with that character. Up and B attack could be whirlwind, so kind of like in the radius around the player that goes upwards, just kind of capture players in a whirlwind so they can trap them, and then possibly do their down and B attack of area fart, which, as it sounds, just do a fart in an area that kind of does damage over time while they stay in it, and yeah, and possibly slows them down a bit as well. Just there's loads of different possibilities. I'll actually decide on the mechanics a lot later, but this is some general ideas just to see how they go along. But moving on to the next one, so I'm going to check I'm recording, yes. That'll be a complete nightmare. Yeah, See Me, which is a ghost type. As you can see, the design is absolutely nowhere near finished, but I've got some shading around the edges and some hands. I don't know whether they'll have hands because it's ghost, but I'm trying to keep them all with kind of human-ish, as in with arms and legs, just kind of keep the characters, let them have some sort of relation to each other. But yeah, so the left and right B attack will be kind of a shadow ball, so a long to medium range kind of little ball, which is just fired towards the player, much like the fireball probably. That kind of may pass through objects because it's a shadow, but we'll see whether that's too much of a advantage to the player. And so up and B will be teleport, so you can, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this one. It may randomly teleport, it may not, so it has its advantages and disadvantages because you may fall off the stage, but probably I'll have it in just different directions, so you hold, so it'll probably be in the X, left and right in the X, and up and down depending on where they want to actually do it. And the down and B will be like a sleep nova, so kind of catching the enemies, put them to sleep for kind of 2 seconds so you can finally do some damage, like Shadow Ball and things like that. Use that to their advantage, maybe knock them off the stage, things like that. Moving on to the next one. Holy Sheet. Holy Sheet, what's going on? Yeah, anyway. Elements is going to be light, or Holy Element, probably light, because it's change it up a bit. The design's getting there with this one, actually. The shading needs to be upped a bit. I've done a bit of shading on the top tassely bits, as you can see, and it's kind of getting there, but that needs to be updated a bit. But yeah, so the left and right B attack would be like a Holy Bolt, so a medium range, kind of light, and like a light ball or something like that. So they're all quite, you can see they're all quite similar to each other in terms of the attacks. Like their standard left and right B attack is usually some sort of projectile to make it fair, so they can reach from range. And so the up and B attack will be Outshine. So this will either be, I don't know, it may blind players, it'll probably be like a blind, so they're not as accurate with their, it may make their projectiles kind of go off in random directions for people that try to attack. They'll miss a lot more often, or it may just be that it passes through the player, but it may just miss. So it will come up with a miss or something and won't do as much damage, or completely miss. I don't know why I'd miss and still do damage, I don't know. But and yeah, a down and B attack, like a Holy Nova, so it may heal a bit of damage. It's a bit controversial with healing. I'm not sure, since no other players will have it, but it'll probably either increase defense, increase attack, maybe something like that. Last 5 seconds, just a standard thing there. So moving on to the next one, Count Darkula. Design not finished, as you can see, but getting there. A dark element. So left and right B attack will be like a Bolt of Darkness. So as similar before, like with the Shadow Ball and the Fireball and things like that, it's just like a projectile, medium to long range projectile, kind of just dark bolt. It's pretty cool. Up and B attack, Stupefy. I may have, so just stuns the target for stuns and slows perhaps, or something like that for a couple of seconds maybe, just so they can kind of get off some damage. And down and B attack of Dark Shroud, which probably works similar to the Outshine, where it reduces accuracy and allows the kind of the player to get away. If they're kind of in a bad situation, they can quickly pop down Dark Shroud and kind of run away. If they need to get some, or if they want to do that and quickly get to one of the power-ups, then they can do that. Yeah, we're getting through quite swiftly because there's quite a few of them. Moving on to the next one, Fuzz Rohan. Yeah, it's not finished, you can see. Dragon element, so it's got some wings there, which you can possibly see. Not very easy to make out. But so left and right B attack could be like a Dragon Breath, so kind of maybe a short to medium range kind of, but it's a trail, as opposed to like a single projectile. It would kind of be an area damage thing, but with a shorter range. Up and B attack can be like a Dragon Wing, so it attacks maybe possibly just straight upwards. It will probably most likely be straight upwards, and yeah, so if a player's jumping over them, then they can quickly catch them with the Dragon Wing. And down and B attack will be Wing Protect, so just increase defense for a short time, something like that, very similar to like a Steel Defense or something like that. So moving on to the next one, Chill Get Out. No, I'm not telling you to get out, it's fine. Element Ice. The left and right B attack will be Ice Shard, so kind of, as I said before, it's a medium range projectile that does similar damage to all the other ones. Up and B attack would be something like a Blizzard Strike, so it kind of does an area of an effect, kind of like brings up shards from the ground and kind of damages and slows all players within a certain area. And the down and B attack could be Ice Block, to just kind of do temporary defense for a while, just to kind of freeze them, can't move, maybe regenerate a little bit, just increase defense. If they've done a special, and you quickly pop yourself in an Ice Block for a few seconds and just kind of fend off the damage for a bit. So it can be used in multiple different ways, but to block projectiles, things like that. Mud Block Dirtanus. A bit of an interesting name that came up with. It's not too bad. poison element, this one, with left and right B attack of sludge bomb, so maybe different to the other projectiles, doesn't it actually just falls off slowly and then kind of just maybe does a bit of area damage when it hits. And maybe poisons them for a short time. A bit controversial again, but we'll see what happens. Up and B attack of... So I'm slouching a bit. Up and B attack of poison spray. So kind of maybe spray damage. Just kind of an area damage. Doesn't do too much damage, but covers quite a lot of surface area that either shoots upwards, left or right, and just does small damage and possibly poisons as well. So this is all about poisoning, you can see. And down and B attack of Poison Cloud, which poisons the player, does damage over time to enemy players, and probably not slow them, but just to do damage over time while they're staying in the cloud, and possibly have a chance of poison, but we'll see whether that's going to be implemented or not. Moving on to the next one, Sparky Roebuck. Is an element of electric, the left and right B attack, just a simple like thunderbolt, so a medium to long range electric attack that may have a chance of paralysis, if I can say that right. The up and B attack of charge up, so just to increase his damage output for a time, or his chance of landing a critical hit perhaps, we'll see what happens. And the down and B attack of Storm Strike, so maybe some sort of thing where he kind of gets his... It's hard to make out from the design there, but because it's not entirely finished, but maybe get his like hammer and just kind of strike the ground and kind of just does some area electric damage, something like that. We're getting there. I think there's 3 left. Yeah, 3 left. Mojo Dojo. Element of fighting, left and right B attack of Chop Suey, so it probably just does some sort of short range chopping, kind of like fast attack that just does moderate damage. Up and B attack of Fist Pump, so kind of like he does like a fist pump, you know, like it's like, yeah, kind of like fist pump, and just like ups his damage a bit, or things like that, maybe up his speed. We'll see what happens. And the down and B attack of Ground Pound, so he just kind of gets both his fists, hits the ground, and does damage, slows players. And yeah, so moving on to the next one. 12th. I struggle saying this one all the time. I'm just going to take a sip of water quickly. Sorry. 12th sense. I'm not even going to try that again. Actually, no, once more. 12th sense. That'll do. Element of Psychic. The design's getting there, actually. I was pretty pleased with this one. Kind of like some mega hair going on there, and yeah, it's looking a bit more interesting, but it'll need a few updates with the hair. I'll probably add some more colours into it and some more shading. The left and right B attack, kind of like a focus beam, so as with the Dragon Breath, a short to medium range beam that just kind of fires out of the staff of the character and does damage to players in the line or things like that. Psychic missiles, the up and B attack, so maybe homing missiles, fire off kind of 2 or 3 missiles that kind of home in on the player that's closest to them, or one missile that goes after each of the players on the field. We'll see what happens with that. And the down and B attack of Psy-Up, so kind of up attack, perhaps up speed, up defense. There's possibilities. There's quite a few possibilities of what that could do, but sorry, I just had an itch on my foot there. Yeah, there's possibilities of what that could be, but we'll decide on that later anyway. And the final one is Rock'em Socks. Amazing design. You can see it's completely finished. Yes, it's just a collection of brown blocks at the moment. But yeah, so element of rock, as you'd probably guess. Left and right B attack of Rock Throw, so just lob a rock at their face and does some damage. Up and B attack of Rock Block. So kind of like maybe pull his fist together, kind of just curls up in the ball, maybe something like that, and just reduces damage or blocks any projectiles coming towards him. And down and B attack of Earthquake, which is pretty much just destruction everywhere. No, not that much, but destruction in an area that kind of just shakes up the ground, brings up some rocks perhaps. Rock spikes are just coming up from the ground and just destroy loads. But that'd be cool. So that's it for the characters. Hope there's some designs that you actually find quite interesting. I quite like them. Once they've finished designing, I'll post them. I'll actually post them on my blog on Friday on my website, herbtaculargames.com, if you haven't checked that out already. Shameless plug. If you're watching this video anyway, you've probably checked it out, but yeah, I'll probably put that on my blog. I'll have I'm coming out with a character sheet at the moment, so I'll just have I'll pop them on just all one image, and I'll post it on the website at some point, or a link to it. I'll upload it on my Dropbox or something, and then I'll add a link to it on Friday. But yeah, so we'll move on to level designs. I'm going to have 6 different levels, all with a few different environments, different mechanics, and kind of different power-up positions, and different ways of holding. So it's going to be kind of... A lot of this game will be based around who can... It's kind of taking a bit from the Quake, in Quake there's different power-ups, like the quad damage. If you haven't played it already, there's things like quad damage, which ups your damage, quadruples your damage. There's like mega health, which doubles your health to 200 from 100 if you're not there already, and like mega armor, which ups it from 100 to 200. So there's different. There'll be different power-ups. There'll be attack power-ups, defense power-ups, and speed power-ups, and obviously relating to damage output, what damage you can defend and fend off, and how far any character movement around the stage. So a lot of the focus will be around who can hold those power-ups, who can actually take control of them and deal as much damage as you can to the opponent without them trying to take those power-ups from you. So, and obviously if the character dies, then those power-ups will go to the opponent, and they'll be able to hold them. But obviously they'll wear off. They'll only be temporary power-ups, like 15-20 seconds, and then they respawn. Then there's maybe a 5 second gap, 5 to 10 second gap, where you're waiting for the power-ups to respawn. So you're fighting over position to make sure you get the power-up as soon as it respawns, and then obviously just recycle that, or rinse and repeat. But yeah, so I've got, going back to level designs anyway, I'm planning to have 6, so at the moment we'll go for 6. I think 6 is a good number for stages. It's kind of just, it's not too many, but there's just enough variety there in order to make it a bit different every time. So we're going to have Castle Capes, which is a castle-based one, as we'll see, Jungle Rumble, which is jungle-based, Cloud9, which is kind of in the sky, Volcanic Rush, it's kind of like in a magma-infused area, kind of, I don't know, Space Antics, which will be up in space, but with buildings, makes funny, and makes funny, and Frosty Snowland, which is obviously snow-based. So be aware, these look like they've done in MS Paint, look like they've been done in MS Paint, but they've been done in Paint.net, which is slightly better. Yeah, but they're nowhere near. These were just rough drafts. This is nothing what it's actually going to look like, which was great, because I don't know why I did them in the first place. The layout of the stages will be very similar. The design will be completely different, because as you can see, it looks like MS Paint, and it is very similar to MS Paint. So Castle Capes, as you can see, there's 2 different towers on either side, with kind of like a main area at the bottom with a few of the power-ups, and yeah, just some kind of like little ledges that the player can jump up on, and kind of like, it's all about controlling the different power-ups. So we've got 3 different positions for the speed power-up, 2 different positions for each of the attack and defense power-ups. So there's a little bit of variation where they'll respawn. So it could be about holding the middle, it could be about holding the top left, depending on where they've spawned. Obviously, it'll be randomly generated. So which one they actually respawn at, you won't know. So it's kind of about holding the areas, what you think. You'll be able to work out what the best areas are. But yeah, so that's just some idea of what it'll look like. These will be very short, because there's not really much I can talk about at the moment for these. Obviously I'll have a background as well. I'm not just having some plain white background or plain blue background on them. I'm actually going to have possibly moving backgrounds as well. The only problem with moving backgrounds is that kind of you've got players moving as well, so it may be a bit confusing what's in the foreground, what's in the background. But maybe just minor movements like kind of birds flying and clouds moving, something like that. Something very simple. But it'll be a lot more detailed than this. It won't look like it's come out of MS Paint, I'm sure. Well, let's hope so anyway. Yeah, so moving on to Jungle Rumble. This one looks horrendous, I'm sorry. Because it looks like MS Paint again. So there's 5 different positions for speed power-ups. This is a bit more interesting in terms of what you should actually control, because there's the center area all holds the speed power-ups in this one. So you might want to, if you need the speed, because you don't need the attack, then you obviously want to hold the middle, so you'll be able to get those speed power-ups very early, and then you can make your way around the stage very easily. But then again, there's power and there's attack power-ups on either side, so you might, if it's respawned on the right once, and you might think, oh, it'll probably have a slightly more chance of respawning on the other side. It'll probably be able to add some modifications to the random numbers in there. But it just opens it up a bit more for what you should control, and yeah, it just kind of adds a bit more. When there's power-ups involved, it's kind of a lot about controlling the power-ups as well as skills. So obviously it is a skill in itself, holding the power-ups and making sure you don't die to them. But anyway, moving on to the next one, Cloud 9. As you can see, it's just going to be consisting of clouds, maybe a bit more. But yeah, this one's going to be a lot more difficult to play on because there's a high chance of actually falling off the stage. So that'll be interesting in itself. Obviously, the rounded edges as well. It's pixel based, so we're not going to see any rounded edges. It's going to be all nice blocky edges, because it's 8-bit / 16-bit. So on this one, it's kind of the speed power-ups are going to be towards the top, and the defense and attack power-ups are going to be towards the bottom. So if you need attack and defense, you're going to want to hover around the bottom a bit. If you want speed power-ups, then you're going to want to hover about the top a bit. So, and depends who camps and who doesn't. Whether you have to go to the opponent or the opponent comes to you. It's something different, but there's a lot of chance of knocking players off the stage here, falling off yourself. I can find it becoming very frustrating and enjoyable at the same time. So just to mix it up a bit. So, Volcanic Rush. This looks very bad because yeah, it's all basically polygons. Very basic polygons, but it gives a general idea. So have the central volcano bit maybe spurts out different rocks or stuff that the player has to avoid because they do damage. Maybe make it a bit more interesting. But as before, there's power-ups in different positions. All about kind of collecting those and make sure you have the power-ups held at all times. And yeah, there is a ground on this one. It just looks like there isn't, but there is. So volcano in the middle, 2 different ledges to the sides, and just some rocks, stagnant rocks in the middle there, 2 of them to hold the different power-ups. Moving on to second to last, is Space Antics. I spent a little bit more time on this one because I had to do the windows, but this will all change. Don't worry, this is nothing like the. Well, it's going to be the layout will be similar, but the design will definitely be changed. But yeah, so this one's, as before, there's not as many power-up locations, so this one's more about you'll pretty much know, especially in terms of the speed power-up, that you'll know that it's always going to spawn at the top there. And then the attack power-ups, they all alternate between the different buildings, so there's a lot of chance for knocking off him and falling off again as before. There'll be a nice background, we'll have a nice space-themed background, it'll just make it a bit more interesting. And moving on to the last one is Frosty Snow. The colours are horrendous. I couldn't pick a right colour, so this was the best one contrast-wise for me. Yeah, there's just, as before, power-ups, a little igloo in the middle. Just different power-ups as before, little ledges. Can't really fall off this one unless you hit them off the stage upwards. And yeah, not much to say about this one before, just lots of power-ups. So, I hope you enjoyed the character and the level designs I've done so far. For this week, I just need to finalise the character designs, make sure they're all sorted, and make sure they're all done, details are done, finished off all the shading, things like that, just to make it a bit more interesting. I need to grab myself a Mac. I might order one today because I really need to start doing some tutorials and start learning the language because I haven't really done much of that. I've done a lot of research into it, but I really need to start actually doing some programming and getting familiar with all of that. So I need to make sure that I'm familiar with that, and before I get started, well, not familiar, but as familiar as I can be within the time frame. And I need to start doing the graphics for GUI elements. So, because I need to, the first thing that I'm going to be starting doing is the GUI itself. So, it's good to have the elements done beforehand, so I don't have to really delay programming too much. But yeah, so that's everything I've done. And I hope you're enjoying these videos. Don't forget to check out my website, which is herbtaculargames.com. Don't forget to check out my Twitter, which is www.twitter.com/herbtacularg. And this is obviously my YouTube channel, and the main page is www.youtube.com/user/herbtaculargames. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you've been checking out. Don't forget to check out all of my other videos that I've done, all of the other 4 of them, from other video logs, and don't forget to check out my blog on my website as well, which I'll be updating this Friday with my final character designs and some more stuff about what I've been doing this week and what I plan to do the week after. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Don't forget to keep updated by liking, comment if you want, and subscribe if you really want to keep up. If you want to keep up to date with updates I'm doing on YouTube. So until next time, I shall see you later. Bye for now.